Welcome back guys to new Cyberpunk video. The list of new weapons in Cyberpunk 2.0 and especially in Phantom Liberty is so long that it was not possible to cover every category in my first video. So in this video we will check out the smart guns, tech guns, all the melee stuff, throwing stuff, explosive weapons, everything you really need to cause havoc, and some of the more unconventional weapon classes. Of course you can almost use every weapon to beat this game on a lower difficulty, but I will only rank you the weapons and how viable it is to beat the game on a higher difficulty with them. Of course there is still some sort of flavor and personal preference involved, but I try to be as objective as possible as usual, so the whole ranking is mostly based on the stats of the weapons, on their iconic traits and how they perform in battle. Smart guns are a very big category because they can contain weapons of very different types, mostly assault rifles and submachine guns. Due to the balance changes in patch 2.0, the Shingen Mark V can no longer be considered to be a good smart weapon, because it is only a burst weapon and the damage is overall way too low to kill your enemies fast enough. So the third best spot for smart guns is now going to the new Hercules 3AX. The Hercules 3AX has an insane 90 rounds magazine and it creates acid pools whenever it kills an enemy, which can trigger chain reactions and kill further enemies around it. However, getting to this point takes way too long due to the overall low damage, which prevents it from getting a higher ranking. A much better job in poisoning your enemies is doing divided withstand, because every bullet you shoot with divided withstand has a chance to create a poison cloud that can kill an entire group around it. So you don't have to kill an enemy to create a poison cloud, you have a chance to do that on every bullet you shoot. And that makes a big difference, especially on higher difficulties where you will need multiple bullets to kill an enemy using this weapon. But you will always have the chance that your first bullet can trigger a poison cloud that kills the entire room. But the top spot for still being the best smart gun in the entire game goes to the Yinglong. The Yinglong is still extremely AWP with a 45 rounds magazine, and due to the insanely high fire rate and the 30% shock chance, it is only a matter of time until you will electrocute and shock your enemies, killing them instantly. Electro damage is always a preferred type because it has the highest damage of all elemental damage classes and it can instantly kill almost every cyberware or robot. And one class that is extremely profiting from electric damage and the new bolt mechanics are tech weapons. I could have ranked almost every weapon in this category on position 1, but unfortunately I had to make a choice. The Widowmaker caters a lot of different playstyles. You can use it with Sandevistan or without Sandevistan, with charging or without charging, and it will always steal a very good job no matter how you use it. It is definitely a good tech weapon and a really good all-round choice. It basically can't go wrong when you use this weapon. The Rosetsu is my personal second place for tech weapons. Of course, if you don't have the DLC, you could also simply use the Breakthrough instead. The Rosetsu is the strongest sniper rifle in the game when it comes down to damage, and it is really easy to charge. However, the long charge time and the long reload time is also one of its downsides. The long charging and reload makes it really not viable for any build that is focused around Sandevistan. But it can be a very good complementary weapon for netrunners. But the new best tech weapon in my opinion is the new Raiju tech gun for several reasons. First, it has one of the highest fire rates in the game, which doesn't even slow down when you use Sandevistan, and it also comes with one of the fastest charging speeds. It is literally the only tech weapon that is viable to be charged and used together with Sandevistan, which makes it an extremely deadly and OP combination. Cyberpunk has a really great set of explosive weapons and it would be a shame not to rank them here as well. On number 4 I would place Comrade's Hammer. Comrade's Hammer is not only a fantastic pistol, but also still one of the most favorable explosive weapons in the game. Even though it reloads after every shot, that is not necessarily a bad trait, since you can use the micro generator to add additional electro damage after every reload, which means every shot will just be even more effective against your targets. But even though you are most likely one-shotting every enemy on very hard using this weapon, there are still much stronger explosive weapons in this list. One of the strongest weapons that is shooting explosive rounds, but also one of the slowest and heaviest ones, is the O5. 50% armor penetration, additional critical damage and over 600 base DPS are making the O5 one of the most potential and deadliest weapon in the game. However, this comes all to a price because you will be running so slowly and also reloading extremely slow, which makes this weapon only really usable from long range when you are far away from your targets. The second best explosive weapon is the NDI Osprey. It almost has no movement losses, so you can move extremely fast, and it also has a 12 rounds magazine with a 3 rounds burst that almost has the effect of shooting 3 miniature rockets at your targets. The NDI Osprey doesn't have the highest explosive damage, but it has a 200% unique headshot modifier, which the Bat Sing Chong and the O5 both don't have. Combined with the increased movement and magazine size, you will have a really deadly weapon at your hand. But the undisputed number 1 explosive weapon is still the Bat-Sing-Shong. The Bat-Sing-Shong is not only better, it is also much stronger and also has an auto-lock on all your targets. You can easily kill entire groups or rooms full of enemies by simply using one single shot of this weapon. Since this is also a shotgun, it benefits from being one of the most potential weapon types in the game, and it can also use the micro generator to deal additional electro damage for every shot. There is still only one real option to use an LMG in this game, which is the new Wild Dog iconic weapon. This weapon has an increased crit chance and fire rate the more often you hit your target. It would actually be a really good weapon if it just dealt a little more damage than your shotgun deals on distance. But the insane magazine size of over 150 rounds and the LMG finisher that refills 20% of your ammo for every enemy you kill can make this weapon really viable. You will literally never have to reload this weapon again, and it just fires faster and faster and faster. But a standard defender equipped with a firecracker mod can be similarly effective and also saves you a ton of ammo. The new melee system in Cyberpunk 2.0 is really awesome, and playing with existing weapons as well as the new weapons is a whole new experience. Sasquatch Hammer is a new iconic weapon and one of the new best melee weapons. It has 75% armor penetration and the highest damage of all melee weapons. However, it is just so damn slow that you really can't run around quickly enough to really make use of it. There are so much better weapons which are just hitting way faster and are much easier to use that I can only place it on spot number 3. The most balanced melee weapons in terms of damage, speed and usability are probably the baseball bats, with the Baby Boomer being the best baseball bat because it also increases crit chance. They also have a higher stun rate than the hammer, which can be used to apply finishers to your targets, and little to no movement penalty, which makes you run around quickly enough to kill everyone with it. Now you can call me crazy because I put the Tinkerbell as the best melee weapon, because having electric damage on a weapon gives it an edge against all other similar ones. It not only has a stun chance like any other melee weapon, but it also has a shock chance that is applied if you hit your enemies often enough, which can simply electrocute all your enemies instantly. Even though it looks extremely funny slamming this weapon to the ground causing cracks on the street, but this weapon is simply the best melee weapon you can play with. It instantly kills robots, it can electrocute and stun your enemies, and will simply do the best job, and is the fastest melee weapon you can use. In the throwing weapons category, there is one item that extremely outperforms everything else, and the third spot goes to the Stinger, mainly because it has a really good return rate compared to all the other knives. The damage over time effects on knives are rather useless, because your goal with throwing knives should always be to kill your enemies with a single hit in a clean headshot to make the knives automatically return to you. The second best knife is the Blue Fang because it makes your enemies immediately stunned, especially when you're out of combat, which lets you apply finishers in case you didn't kill your enemy in your first hit. This makes it an extremely good knife, especially for stealth gameplay, and probably the best regular throwing knife. But the crown for the best throwing weapon overall goes to the Agau. The Agau is an electrified throwing axe, which literally electrocutes every enemy you hit, because it causes an electric explosion on every critical hit, so literally every time. That also means you don't even have to make a headshot to kill your enemies, you can simply hit them everywhere. The electric explosion will cause them to die anyway. So with a single throw of this weapon, you can not only clear a single enemy, but mostly an entire group or even an entire room. Having this weapon combined with 100% crit chance is probably one of the coolest and most powerful melee builds you can make in Cyberpunk right now. In a video about all melee weapons, of course the katanas shouldn't be missed. I totally understand that a lot of people love the Byakko, but it really doesn't have anything more than the attack speed that speaks for it. The attack speed might actually benefit you early game, but it really doesn't help you anymore when you reach the point that you one-shot anyone with your powerful abilities. So the Byakko could potentially be on place number 3 during early game, but the Yinhimaru would likely replace it during mid or late game. Other than that, you should definitely go for the Errata. The Errata has a much better bonus, which gives you critical damage whenever you hit burning enemies, and the Scalpel is still the number 1 because it gives you the 50% crit chance bonus as long as you have Sandevistan active. The 50% crit chance will not only help you during early game, but it will also save you a ton of capacity of cyberware, which you don't have to invest into crit chance even on higher levels. You will have all the crit chance you need from this weapon, which saves you over 50 capacity. And besides that, it also has a shock chance on it, so there's nothing really that can compete with it. I hope this video was helpful and gives you an impression on what items are best to use. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.